Nathaniel Popper, Bitcoin may be digital gold and the future of currency for a lot of people, but to others it's still a scary new technology. So before we talk about your book, tell me exactly what is Bitcoin?
I think I've boiled it down to three basic metaphors that I think capture some of the different elements of it, because most people just think of it as sort of a digital gold, this new online token. And that's one part of it, is this idea of a sort of scarce online good. But beneath that, what you have is a sort of network that it lives inside of. And that network, the easiest way I like to think about it is as a sort of email for money. Just as you went from the postal service to email, and with email, you could have somebody's address in Kuala Lumpur and send them an email and not have to go through some central service. Bitcoin really does the same thing for money. You don't have to go through a bank. You don't have to go through some central organization. You can just send money anywhere. And it, of course, is these digital tokens. And then the third element of the system that is getting a lot of attention right now is essentially the spreadsheet on which all of these Bitcoins are stored. And it's sort of a spreadsheet in the cloud where all the transactions are recorded and all of everybody's Bitcoins are recorded. And that excites a lot of people because it's sort of a new way of keeping track of information. So that's the sort of essentials of the system.
I'll tell you what's getting a lot of excitement right now is the furor over who actually started Bitcoin. So is it Satoshi Nakamoto or Nick Szabo? It's pretty mysterious.
For sure. Certainly, Satoshi Nakamoto was the creator of Bitcoin. That was the name at the top of the paper that explained what Bitcoin was. That was the email address that sent out the original software. The question is, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? And there have been many efforts to find this person. Satoshi communicated with people in the early Bitcoin community through that email address, never by phone, never in person, and then disappeared. And the question is, who was doing all that work? And there have been a lot of efforts to find Satoshi. Newsweek made a big splash, and most people concluded they found the wrong person last year. I think a lot of people in the community, what I found, was that they sort of assumed it was this reclusive programmer out in California named Nick Szabo. I think we're probably not going to know until whoever Satoshi is decides to come forward and sort of claim ownership over those early accounts. I think one of the interesting things that I found is that whoever Satoshi was, this technology grew out of 2 or 3 decades of experimentation, and Nick Szabo was one of the people involved in that. But trying to find this new kind of money has been a long experiment that finally resulted in Bitcoin.
And you talk about the misfits and millionaires driving Bitcoin in your book, but most people really know the Winklevoss twins, and that's because of the Facebook story. So who's driving Bitcoin to legitimacy right now? And it's getting closer to legitimacy because you're seeing Goldman Sachs invest in it, and it's being listed at the stock exchange. But who are the faces that people can put to the cryptocurrency?
Well, I think that there's the early group, and those are a lot of the misfits, though there were a lot of millionaire misfits who got in early and decided to put a lot of money into this. They loved the idea of this money that no government could track, that no government could control, that no bank could collect fees on. And so there's a lot of fascinating characters in this book, some of whom have ended up in jail as a result of this story. I think right now what you see driving this is essentially Silicon Valley and Wall Street. And Marc Andreessen out in Silicon Valley is the biggest name who's put his reputation on the line for Bitcoin. But there is really a lot of excitement out in Silicon Valley about this. And what you're seeing on Wall Street is that all of the banks essentially have groups that are working on this and trying to figure out how can we make use of this? How can we use this to increase productivity, to get rid of people, to get rid of business lines, to sort of streamline our operations? And that's that Goldman Sachs investment that you've seen. But I think this divide between Wall Street's vision of Bitcoin and Silicon Valley's vision of Bitcoin is what's going to be playing out in the coming years, really.
All right, thanks a lot, Nathaniel.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching The Street.